Hey guys, Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Look what we've got going here. We've got some goat currying down nice and lovely in this. Well, we already pressure cooked it. So today's video, there's been a lot of requests for this. Chris, how do I cook curry goat in the pressure cooker? So here we go, guys. Curry goat, no, pressure cooker curry goat. You're gonna love it. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Always a pleasure to have you here in the kitchen with me. So let's get cooking. In the bowl here, I've got 3 pounds of goat meat. This is not boneless, so there is bones in there. I tend to use goat meat with bones in it just because I love the flavor that you get. So the first thing we've got to do is to season this and allow it to marinate for a few hours. 1 teaspoon of salt. I've got here 1 tablespoon of Caribbean green seasoning, and that is homemade. In the description of the video, I'll have a link for you guys how to make that lovely green seasoning. I'll be about 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. This is an optional ingredient. I've got 1 teaspoon, well, more like 3/4 teaspoon of amchar masala. And if you go to your West Indian grocery store, you will find it there. If you can't get that, use about 1/2 teaspoon of ground cumin. That would be excellent in here. The other thing is I've got 2 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of curry powder here. All I'm going to use at this point is about 1 teaspoon of that in here just to season this up and marinate it. I've got here 1 tablespoon of tomato ketchup, and the acidity from that is going to add a lovely flavor to this if you're a bit inquisitive about ketchup going into a curry. Here I've got 1 tomato, again something you may find to be a bit strange going into a curry, but 1 tomato and 2 scallions all chopped up, and everything is going into my bowl here. And at this point we're just going to mix this, give this a good mix, and allow it to marinate in the fridge for at least 2 hours. I've got my pressure cooker here on a high heat, and to that I'm going to add about 2.5 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And since the pressure cooker pan here is already hot, what I'm going to do is add in some onions, as well as some finely chopped garlic. You can crush the garlic if you want. It's totally up to you. Give that a quick stir. And now I'm going to reduce my heat to low because I want that to slowly cook for about 3 minutes to soften up and release all those lovely flavors. With the heat still on low, I'm going to toss in a couple tablespoons of Madras curry powder in there. It's Madras curry powder, but it is made in the Caribbean. Just want to give that a quick stir. And again, with the heat on low, you want to toast this for at least 3 minutes. Next up, I've got some bird's eye or bird pepper here. These little chilies are quite hot, not as hot as Scotch bonnet peppers as I would normally use. I'm out of Scotch bonnet peppers. I'm just going to toss those in there and let that sort of soften up a little bit for about a minute or so. You will notice that I didn't cut or break open those little peppers because I want the flavor from it, but I don't want that raw heat. If you want that raw heat, you can certainly cut those up. If you're using Scotch bonnet pepper, about 1/2 a pepper, no seeds, and boy, that'll add a lovely kick to things. Now we've got to add the seasoned goat meat that we seasoned up earlier. So I'm just going to turn my heat up to high because I want to sort of sear this goat meat as it goes into the pan here. And this is it here, all seasoned up. All of the marinade, everything is fine to go in there. And with your heat on high, sear it as best you can for about 5 to 8 minutes. Your kitchen should have that lovely scent of a good curry going. Boy, it's smelling wicked in here. Next up, we've got to put this to actually pressure cook now to get nice and tender. That's the whole idea of, they say using the pressure cooker is to cook it fast, but to get it tender. As you can see, all the pieces of goat meat is well covered with that curry sauce, that curry base that we have. In the same bowl that we marinated the curry, and I put 3 cups of water in there because I want to pick up any sort of seasoning that was left back in the pot there, in the bowl. Give that a quick stir. And I'm going to top it with some fresh thyme. So that's about 4 sprigs of thyme. And I have here about 2 tablespoons of freshly chopped shado beni. If you can't get shado beni, it will also be called culantro in the West Indian or Asian grocery stores, as well as the Latin grocery stores. You can certainly use about 4 tablespoons of chopped cilantro. It's just a matter of putting the lid on the pressure cooker now. Lock it in there. Put your little birdie on top and wait for that birdie to sing. As soon as that birdie starts to sing, turn your heat down as you would normally, because right now it's on high. You want to turn it down so you get that constant singing from the birdie here. I mean, I said just as how you would normally use your pressure cooker. As soon as you get that birdie going, you want to time it 25 minutes. 25 minutes. I allowed it to cool down now so it's safe to open. You're going to notice a couple things. Let me just move the camera up here. Well, you will notice one thing. It will be a bit runny. That gravy there is not thick enough. Let me show you what I mean. It's very runny. The goat meat will be nice and tender, so you got to do a couple things here. Taste for salt. Add more if it's necessary for your liking. Now, what I would usually do is light back the stove under this. And what I would do with the lid off, reduce it to the consistency of the gravy that I like. It probably take about 5 minutes on high. It's been reducing now for about 6 minutes. It's nice and thick. I'm just going to turn the stove off. That is perfect. Couple things I want to point out to you guys. This goat meat has bones in it, so be aware of that when you're eating it or when you're feeding it to others. The bones will add a unique flavor, so you want those bones, but just be aware of it when you're eating. The second thing I want to mention is, if you allow this goat meat to cool down, goat meat is notorious for being greasy and oily. You will notice on the very top a layer, thick, well, depending on how much goat meat you're cooking, on how fatty it was. But you will notice a layer. Allow it to cool all the way. I mean, almost cold. You can put it in the fridge and reheat it after. But you will see a thin layer of grease settle at the top. All you want to do is scoop that out, toss it out, and get rid of that. That stuff is not good for you. Then you would just heat back up the curry goat, and boy, you're going to be enjoying one of the best curry goats you've ever had. We've just cut the time of cooking this curry goat by 2/3. Typically this would take 2.5 to 3 hours. We did it in about 40 minutes with the reducing and everything else. Chris here at CaribbeanPot.com. Always a pleasure to have you here in the kitchen. I do hope you give this pressure cooker curry goat a try. You're going to love it.